So our next session is going to be again another very interesting session and a very esteemed faculty actually. So we will be uh, discussing here or talking about Professor. I would like to invite Professor Mustaque Ahamad. He's a professor of computer science with Georgia Institute of Technology, and Professor would be speaking on beyond the lab, real world applications of academic deep research, deep tech research, basically. Again, very interesting, very relevant topic for today's discussion, actually. So, welcome, Professor, and really look forward to hearing your thoughts on this topic. And thanks for that.
Thanks, Mangesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely, sir. I can hear you.
Excellent. So let me start by thanking Sahil and Chalea for inviting me and an opportunity for speaking with you. Chalea is a former PhD advisee, so it's great to connect with him again. I'm going to talk about two startups, but I do want to remind you that my primary job is being a professor at Georgia Tech. US universities actually allow you to spend 20% of your time outside. So that's the time I spend at the two companies that I co founded and serve as the chief scientist for. So, my main focus really in my lab is to do deep tech research. Startups are not the reason we develop research projects, but I'll tell you how those lead to companies. My research in particular is in the cybersecurity area. So deep tech research, I think, is driven by how technology evolves and how new applications and services gain traction. But in the cybersecurity context, you also have this threat landscape. So anything we build, bad guys come, and how we going to deal with threats that arise. So that's another driver for a lot of the research that happens in our lab. And when I start sort of a research project or we write a proposal, it gets funded, we really sort of focusing on how we're going to advance knowledge in the particular field in which this research lies. So our main goal is to generate great papers that get awesome reviews, get published at top conferences. We train PhD students who go on to become researchers. And the best we do in this kind of research is actually build research prototypes. We're not going to create products that immediately kind of can go to the market and you can start an immediate business. So the two examples, sort of this template that I have followed, the first one we did was Pindrop Security, was founded a little over 10 years ago, 200 plus employees, over 200 million in investment from top VCs, lots of customers at this point. I do want you to the two examples. Credit should be given where credit is due. My PhD students, so former PhD students who worked on these technologies, really should get all the credit. I mean, they put blood and sweat in building these companies. I only kept my Georgia Tech job, as I said before. So Vijay, who was doing its PhD, the cybersecurity angle was we saw that trusted telephony channel was going the way of the internet in the sense of all the bad stuff we had in the online world was showing up on the telephony channel that banks and other financial institutions and organizations relied on trust in that channel. So Vijay's idea was, well, if caller ID can be spoofed, now with generative AI, if synthetic voice can sound just like you, how are we going to know who's at the other end of the call when, let's say, they call the call center of a bank? So his problem was, can I learn, take the audio signal that's coming to me anyway, and apply some machine learning signal processing techniques to actually know something about the provenance of this call. Is it a fraudster or is it really the customer that who wants to reach you? And that's what he built a prototype. It was a great paper that he wrote, which appeared at the top security conference, ACMCCS. That was the main idea, and then it sort of transitioned into a startup because someone from a major bank said, "Hey, that sounds interesting. Do you have a solution for me where my call center actually can learn if a call is legit or not?" So that's how we got started, and Vijay has built this company um, over the last 10 years. Something like that actually repeated. And the second company that we launched, co-founded another PhD student, Mushir. It's about 6 years old now. Again, it has dozens of uh, customers where we really taken the research and proven its value in the real world. And the technology he was working on was again machine learning, and in cybersecurity we focus a lot on anomaly detection. And at the time we knew a lot about doing anomaly detection for network traffic. And he said, well, there's all kind of data in other domains. In particular, you have data in the healthcare domain, and healthcare fraud, waste, abuse in the US is in hundreds of billions of dollars. They relied on rule based systems that were slow to respond. And a cybersecurity person would tell you that rule based systems don't really work very well. That's why antivirus doesn't, signature based antivirus doesn't work too well. So he was actually, that's the new domain he looked into and developed techniques to kind of risk score transactions that would look potentially suspicious and need to be investigated. And that's how he built a research prototype, which then led to this company that he's leading now. Again, I would give 90% of the credit for building these companies to these co-founders who are the PhD students. So, in terms of some takeaways based on my experiences, that at least in my lab and my colleagues around the hall, we focus on the deep tech. Obviously, having impact beyond people like you in the research community in the real world is a great thing to have. But our research is somewhat forward looking, and hopefully we advancing the field in some way. That's the primary focus. I do want to share with you that it's the academic research community I live in is really not great at helping you figure out something that you have done has commercialization potential or not. Just to give an example, the pin drop paper that we wrote in 2011 last year got 2 years ago got the Test of Time award from. These are, they wait 10 years before they decide if a certain paper is worthy of this Test of Time award. But at the time the paper was accepted and published, multiple reviewers had a great idea, but this has no practical value. Okay, these were sort of my peers, colleagues, and things like that. So that's not what we really. I think many of us are good at. Some obviously are. The two examples that I give, my experience is that the university you are in and its startup ecosystem is really instrumental in getting you to launch a deep tech startup. You create intellectual property, patents have to be filed. The technology then has to be licensed to the company. It has to be licensed exclusively because that's what investors want. And then a lot of other support connecting you to sort of the business side of building a company. Georgia Tech does a really great thing. Last thing I like to finish with is that founder CEOs, Vijay and Mushir, are still CEOs of the companies. Vijay, 11, 12 years now. They have really that's worked well for us because the deep tech is all about innovation. It's not a one shot thing. You constantly have to innovate, and they know the technology the best. Both Padoxo and Pindrop have research team with dozens of PhDs, and Vijay and Mushir exactly know why they need to invest in that kind of research to stay ahead of everybody else. So that's my experience. I'm going to stop here, and I don't know if you have any time for questions. I'm happy to take those.
Thank you, Professor Mushtaq. Actually, it was amazing insights on cybersecurity, a very relevant topic, absolutely, when it comes to fraud or some of the rule-based engine which you mentioned as well, actually, challenges and where applications of AI can also be used to automate some of these rules as well. And a real example of something which came out of lab or from the college and grew up into a 200 plus organization. So pretty motivating and uh, interesting insights. Since we are running out of time, actually, I would like to thank you very much for taking time and participating and sharing your thoughts in this event.